You've spent months picking the perfect color palette and scrolling through curated nursery sets on Pinterest. But as a building biologist, I see your baby's room through a different lens. I see a complex ecosystem, one that can either support your baby's growth and development or one that can become a daily burden of toxins. Your baby will spend nearly 70% of their first year in this one room. And during those hours, their body is performing the intensive work of neurological development and immune system mapping. Today, I want to help you move past a curated look and into a design philosophy that prioritizes biology, clean indoor air, and restorative rest. We're going to cover everything from the invisible electromagnetic fields in your walls to the air quality 6 inches off the floor. My goal is to help you create a true sleep sanctuary where your baby can fully rest, fully develop, and thrive. Because babies aren't just small adults. They are physiologically unique and much more vulnerable to the world around them. Welcome back. I'm Amanda. I'm a building biology practitioner. I'm a certified home inspector and a healthy home expert, and I'm also a mom. I've had 3 babies, and I understand how important the nursery can be. So let's dive in. To understand why we prioritize building biology in the nursery, we have to look at infant physiology. So a newborn's liver and kidneys, they're not yet fully efficient at processing and excreting chemical toxins. Now, in an adult body, many environmental pollutants are filtered and excreted relatively quickly. However, in a baby, these substances can circulate much longer in the bloodstream, potentially interacting with developing tissues. Their metabolic pathways are still being built, and this means that they have a much lower threshold for chemical exposure than we do as adults. And pound for pound, infants breathe much more air than adults do. This high respiration rate means that if the nursery air contains VOCs from paint, from furniture, or adhesives, your baby is receiving a significantly higher dose of those chemicals relative to their body weight. Furthermore, a baby's blood-brain barrier is more permeable, and their skull is much thinner and more conductive than an adult's. So this makes their central nervous system uniquely susceptible to both neurotoxic chemicals in the air, as well as electromagnetic frequencies from the technology that we place nearby. Now, in the field of environmental health, we often discuss this 6-inch rule. This is the most polluted air in any home is typically the layer closest to the floor. This is where house dust, pet dander, and heavy metals or pesticides tracked in from outside, they eventually settle due to gravity. So because babies are low zone breathers who spend their days rolling, crawling, playing directly on these surfaces, they're in a constant contact with the settled zone. So their hand-to-mouth behavior also plays a part because it only increases the risk of ingesting these settled pollutants. So I want to share with you a landmark study. It's linked in the blog post this week, but it's published in Environmental Science and Technology. And what it does is it confirms that house dust is a major pathway for infant exposure to phthalates and to flame retardants. Now, most synthetic rugs could be made from polyester, nylon, and these are essentially processed petroleum. So to make these rugs family friendly, they are almost always treating them with PFAS for stain resistance. And these forever chemicals, they're linked to immune system disruption and developmental delays. So as the rug ages, it will basically shed particles and microplastics and chemicals into the dust that your baby is then breathing and touching every single day. So we're looking at the nursery. The flooring is the largest surface area. And when you're shopping, you have to kind of ignore these marketing labels like stain resistant or kid proof. These are often code for chemical treatments. So instead, we can look for 100% GOTS certified organic cotton or wool, because wool is one of my favorite materials. I will share with you that it's a biofiber, which means it's naturally flame resistant, and you're eliminating the need for toxic chemical retardants to be added to it. It also helps naturally regulate the humidity in the room. You can also check the backing. So conventional rugs use an SBR latex glue, and this will off gas. It's that classic new carpet smell. Instead, I would love to direct you to Rugs by Rue. This is one of my favorite resources when it comes to finding non-toxic flooring. I have a coupon code in the blog post this week to get you 10% off. But my friend Sandy is the owner and creator. She specifically vets their inventory to ensure that their rugs are safe and healthy for any room of your house, including the nursery. If you're navigating a home project right now, or you're trying to figure out if your home is actually safe, I know that it can feel really overwhelming. You might be guessing about invisible toxins or trying to figure out where a damp odor is coming from. It might even be trying to fix stagnant air in your home without a clear plan. In order to give families my dedicated attention, I take just 4 virtual one-on-one consultations a week to help you set up a clear plan for your home. We can look at your space together and come up with a science-backed plan and a step-by-step roadmap that leaves you feeling confident about your home. Simply click the link above or in the video description below to set up your one-on-one consultation with me so that we can walk through your home and create that plan together. We've talked about the third skin many times, and in building biology, that's what we consider your home's walls to be, in that it can protect the person inside. So just like your own skin, walls need to be vapor permeable or breathable. Conventional vinyl wallpaper, if you want to put that in your room, this can actually act like a plastic wrap on your walls, and it can trap moisture behind the paper. So if that moisture cannot escape, especially on an exterior facing wall, it can lead to hidden mold growth that you might not see until it's a major problem. So I would recommend avoiding wallpaper. Now, if you love the look of wallpaper, you can find more natural options. I do have some linked in the blog post this week. You can look for PVC free. We want to use maybe a breathable paper, and then you could use a natural clay-based adhesive. Another component of a nursery is the window treatment. And this is really important, especially because we probably want to block out some light in our nursery. But window treatments, they're a massive surface area that we oftentimes overlook. And when the sun hits a synthetic window shade or a plasticized blackout curtain, it can actually create a mini greenhouse effect. So the heat accelerates the off-gassing of VOCs and phthalates directly into the nursery air. Many blackout curtains achieve their light blocking power through a rubberized chemical coating on the back, which can emit a distinct chemical odor when it's warm. So instead, I recommend choosing linen or hemp or an organic cotton. You can even find paper shades that are going to be a healthier option. And for blackout needs, you can just look for a tighter weave fabric with a liner instead of chemical coatings. So we also need to look at the airflow and moisture control in a nursery. Air quality is a dynamic process, and it's not just a static state. So because we often keep nursery doors closed for long periods while baby sleeps, the air can quickly become stale. And this can lead to a buildup of CO2 and VOCs from materials in the room. There was actually research published in the Archives of Pediatrics and Adolescent Medicine, and it found that using a ceiling fan in a baby's room was associated with a 72% reduction of SIDS risk. And if you're a parent, you know this is something that, we all become concerned about. So a fan ensures that that air is constantly being mixed and moved around, and this can help prevent CO2 pockets from forming around a sleeping baby's face. And when it comes to arranging your nursery furniture, you really have to keep in mind thermodynamics. I know this sounds sciencey, but basically never push a large dresser or a crib flush against an exterior facing wall. What this does is this creates a dead air zone, and this is where heat cannot reach that area of the wall. So in the winter, that wall stays cold. And when the warm, humid air of the nursery hits that cold spot, you get condensation. And over time, this is the leading cause of hidden mold growth behind furniture. So keep all your furniture at least 2 to 4 inches away from the outside walls to allow for air circulation. And you also want to make sure your layout doesn't block the return vent, which is essential for your home's HVAC system to pull old air and move fresh filtered air in. Let's also talk about EMFs. So we often think of walls as this really solid barrier, but to electromagnetic fields, or EMFs, they're essentially transparent. So before you anchor that crib to the wall, you have to look at what is on the other side. Is it a refrigerator, a large TV, a microwave, an air conditioning unit? What is on the opposite wall next to the room? High-draw appliances create magnetic fields that pass right through the drywall and into your baby's sleeping space. You should also ensure that the crib is not backed up against your home's main electrical panel or a smart meter located on the exterior of the house. Now, technology is such a cool thing, and I think that we have so many opportunities to use it in a really healthy way. But the BioInitiative report highlights that children's developing nervous systems are actually much more susceptible to radio frequency radiation. Melatonin, which is the hormone that is responsible for deep restorative sleep and cellular repair, can be suppressed by high levels of RF fields. So your baby monitor and maybe your white noise machine, while they're helpful tools, they should still be placed at least 6 feet away from the crib. We don't want it attached to the crib in any way, shape, or form. So if you're still in the planning stages, I would actually highly recommend running a shielded Ethernet cable to the nursery so you can hardwire a camera. This is going to eliminate wireless radiation entirely. Along these lines, we'll talk about lighting for a little bit. Light is a powerful biological trigger, and the type of light in your nursery tells your baby's brain whether it's time to grow and be active or if it's time to rest. So most standard LED bulbs emit a high amount of blue light, which signals the body to stop producing melatonin. For nighttime feedings and diaper changes, I really recommend using an amber or a red spectrum bulb. You can even find red nightlights. That's what we used in our own home. These wavelengths do not disturb sleep cycles as much, and it allows both you and baby to fall back asleep more easily. Finally, even in a carefully designed room, indoor air can contain pollutants from the rest of the house because all of the rooms within our home, they all share air. So an air purifier is your insurance policy. Now, most standard air purifiers, they only have a HEPA filter, and this is great at catching dust, but it's pretty useless against chemicals like VOCs and formaldehyde. So what you need is a purifier with a substantial amount of activated carbon. Carbon acts like a sponge, and it soaks up the gas phase toxins that HEPA filters cannot catch. There's actually research done in the Lancet Planetary Health publication that emphasizes that reducing fine particulate matter, so this is what our air purifier filters are catching, when you do this indoors, it is actually a critical step in protecting a child's long-term lung function. Designing a toxin-free nursery, this is your first opportunity to curate the environment your child will grow in. And by choosing natural textiles from places like Rugs by Rue and prioritizing airflow and being intentional with crib placement, you are building more than just a room. You're actually building a foundation for their health. And I know this can feel like a lot of information, but remember that every small choice makes a measurable difference. So if you're looking for a curated list of specific products or things that are vetted to meet these high building biology standards, definitely head to the link in the video description or above. And I have this week's blog post as a full guide to help you create a healthy nursery, and I also am linking a toxin-free baby registry guide. As always, thank you so much for being here. I hope you can take at least one thing from this week's video and apply it in your own nursery space, or maybe share it with a friend who's creating their own nursery at home. If you did find this video helpful, definitely give it a like and be sure to subscribe to my channel because I'm here every single week with new tips, new ideas on how to create a space that truly supports your health and your wellness.